been debunked, and it's recognized that it doesn't work. So I think that I've been in Sarasota and working here, like I said, for about 5 weeks. So although I may not be 100% on some of the details, my understanding is that the night before the legislature ended in January, a certain number of bills were put forth by certain legislators that were in essence anti-LGBT, whether that was about reintroducing conversion therapy or restricting health care to trans youth and stuff like that. There were a number of them. Again, my understanding is that they all died in committee, but I do think that part of my eye towards this leadership and development program would be to organize young people to do advocacy work around issues that are going to directly affect them. I mean, I come from a different space as well. I mean, I came out in 1978, and it was a different time. And a lot of the ease that young people have in being gay at their age, and a lot of the rights that they have now weren't in place when I came out. So I think we back then we had also it was pre-HIV and AIDS, and I was moved to New York City to go to college right at the beginning of the AIDS crisis. So people mobilized on a much bigger and public level through the Gay Men's Health Crisis or ACT UP or Queer Nation. And it was almost like a responsibility that you had as being part of the community to do that kind of work. I don't necessarily see that now, but I do think that it's important that we equip young people with the tools so that they are able to do that, especially in a place where you still have people, although they're unsuccessful, you still have people that have some kind of interest in stripping the rights of LGBT people, so that it's a fight that hasn't ended. And sadly, it's one that we'll have to continue fighting.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important that all these organizations that support LGBTQ equality, work together and strive together, because the battle isn't over. You're exactly right. Just because we have supposed to have marriage equality, that's not the end of the battle. There's laws on books here in Florida. For example, there's laws in some counties here right by us that state that you can discriminate in housing, discriminate in employment, and so forth. And it is a continuous struggle for us to try to move forward with equality. I wanted to go into some other areas here and discuss with you a little bit. You mentioned some of the lending program you had with the book club there. Do you see this being further expanded possibly as ways for outreach in education to the young people? I was trying to think about some areas of where it could be used for further education, and with adults too, the young people that come there. Maybe do you have books there that they could take and give to their parents to read if their parents would read them? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I want to take a step back and go back to the previous question. I just want to be clear also that the sentiment here is not to create an army of young activists. I mean, every child that comes through here is going to have a different interest and a different area of comfort with how they present themselves to the greater community. My whole philosophy is that what we're here to do is provide them with tools so that should they choose to do that, they'll be able to go out there confidently and successfully. But as far as the library goes, yeah, we have books that youth can take out. They can certainly give them to their parents. And it's a whole range of stuff from history books about the whole LGBT movement to literature by gay authors to books on gay themes. There's a whole, it's the gamut really of what's available. And yeah, we encourage them to do it. Another thing that I'm really hoping to add to the experience here, also used for these young people, is a sense of history. A sense of the people who have come before them who have done the work to get the LGBT community what they do have in terms of rights and support and community involvement. One of my approaches up north was that I didn't want to operate in the periphery as a LGBT youth organization. I feel like that as an organization that we should be welcomed at the table for any kind of discussion that impacts young people in the Sarasota and Manatee County areas. And that came from an idea where I was interviewed once, and the person interviewing asked me that whether, they were asking about how society has become more tolerant of LGBT people. And my response to that was that people don't want to be tolerated. They want to be accepted. They want to be a part of the whole. They want to be a part of the fabric of a whole community. So that's how I approach the work here. Excellent.
I'll share something here too, and this came from one of my meetings I had there at also youth through PFLAG, as I'm sure you're familiar with, and as sure. I don't know if you realize, I do sit on the board for PFLAG, and but I remember the question came up to me, and they said, well, why weren't you out when you were professionally employed? And I had to remind people, I said, kind of like what you mentioned earlier, I would not have had the career I had and all the success that I had if I had been out in my younger years. It just wouldn't have happened. And a lot of people have to realize that today, the world we live in today has changed from what it was like 30 or 40 years ago. And when people had to really work hard to protect their careers. Right. So,
well, and there's a flip side to that as well. And I talk to the young people here about that. So every one of us has a unique story. And I can tell you that I was incredibly fortunate from the very beginning, from 1978 on, at home, within my family, within my work life, within everywhere. I mean, I came out completely at that point and never, ever, ever had a bad experience. That's unusual. Believe me, I know that. But it's that just happens to be my story. I have friends who went through the same thing, who had very successful careers and couldn't really be true to their true identity until they were in their 40s and 50s, and the times had changed. So yeah, we all definitely have very unique and very special stories, and that's what makes us a whole as a community, But I do I've been talking to Amanda, our program manager, about having these intergenerational discussions so that young people can learn firsthand the experiences of people who came before them, whether they were good or whether they were bad or whether they were just different. So that's something that we're looking to incorporate as we move forward, either virtually or once we are back with our doors open.
Excellent. That's a great idea. Okay, James, we have about 2 minutes to wrap up here, a little less. And I want you to give me some of your final thoughts here to kind of summarize what we've been through here and what you see happening here in the near future. I know you want to get reopened and in a safe way. So give me some final thoughts here in the final minute or we have left here.
Well, yes. I mean, we want to get opened in a safe way, and it may take a little while. And we will look to, obviously other organizations, but we'll also look to the school department and see what they're doing, so that we're all working in communion with each other. And I mean, I'm terribly excited to be here, and I do think that it's an opportunity. We'll have opportunities for growth once we get over this little hump here and see what the future holds in terms of whether there'll be a resurgence in viral infections and whether we'll go into, another shutdown or not. Once we get to a point where there's a real understanding of how this is going to work toward the future, we'll be able to move forward with it. But we haven't stopped. The momentum is still moving forward. We're still reaching young people every week with the virtual programs that we have. The phone's always open here for people to contact. I happen to be in the office every day, but I'm here alone. But so we're still here as a resource. We're still here providing support, and we're still here doing activities. So
excellent.
It's on a modified scale.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And glad to have you today. Thank you for listening, and we hope you have enjoyed today's discussion. This has been Coastal Progressive and Rainbow Forum on Society Bites Radio, and I've been your host, Steve Ryan.